40 more minutes is perfect.
I think so too.
Just keep things moving forward. If you do have either the Sheepdog democracy, or if we just talk about a couple ideas we want to move forward, one in particular I would like to move forward would be one of the short videos off the couple Kurt posts that I said, man, this would be a great little mini doc.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think either you and I narrating or passing the idea back and forth, because I think there was a thing about comedy that tied in that said, it's not just somebody doing something funny, it's somebody watching somebody do something funny is what really makes the audience laugh or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you see it more like why do you sing along with choruses? It's because there's that introduction of more voices. Why does a line get a longer line? Is because people go, the wisdom of crowds. So if you hear more people singing along or standing in a line or more people watching it. So if we had more than one voice in a video, in fact, if we had a couple voices, it could be 2 to 3, not to overwhelm, but something that starts a small crowd. Certainly you were talking about roundtables, but I'm talking about taking a mini documentary and putting a couple of our clips in it, even if Kurt read a short bit of it and you did a short bit or whatever, so we would have a couple voices in it. I think it might have more appeal and certainly less weight or effort on any one person's shoulder. I can help script it out. I'm pretty sure I can find a stock photo and video company. Yeah. There's plenty of them online. Some of them will give you unlimited use of clips for something per year or whatever. So I think we could craft something with a lot of stock footage. That was a lot of the early Zeitgeist films were stock footage and film.
Mm-hmm. And it's really just a matter of, like you say, scripting and recording audio.
Yep. And then if you, I, Kurt, and who else have a decent audio recording, I can even clean up the files a little bit through some of my audio programs, if needed. Reduce background noise, isolate the audio.
There we go.
You guys see that right there?
Yeah.
I grabbed that for $30 off a kid on Facebook, and it's a brand new USB mic. So, it's usually about $100. So
yeah.
And I've got a lot more gear than that. I mean, I just bought that because I watched the little Saley dealy things that are local, and they're going through my feed. If it's just really cheap for something that's valued to me, I usually just pick it up if I've got the money. So, but decent audio quality. It's a lot harder to. I'm sure Brian knows. It's a lot harder to fix it if they say, "Well, we'll just fix it in the mix." Well, that's actually a joke. There's no way to fix it in the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to invest in a mic, and I was going to put a few outlines, just bullet points, up on that document, which I have access to now. And then we can work from there. Even if it's, remember the libertarian, there was one young guy from the UK who did little cartoons on libertarian concepts. And similar to some of the anarchist ones too, that they were only 4 or 5 minutes, cover one concept. There would be half dozen of them. Just something like that. Hi, Maddy.
Hey. Aloha.
Where are you at?
Not home.
Ah, all right.
Outside.
That's your home. I'm jealous.
This is our front yard.
Wow.
Nice.
My front yard is pavement and people.
No.
And there's a park right beside us that everybody walks their dogs. I can't take mine because nobody likes my dog. But it's about to go under construction. So soon it'll be pavement, people, and construction gear.
Oh, that's even better. And jackhammers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We live at a dead, and my across the street neighbor is actually him and his wife garden too. And so we'll trade starts and stuff, and he's actually my barber, so it makes me feel pretty privileged. So if someone drives all the way down our street, there's only a few houses past us, and so if someone drives down here, we're all looking because you're at the dead end. Like if you're not, and there's a vacant house and a house where people just bought right next door to us, and so we're waiting to see how these people next door act. I know the lady that sold them the house, so I know they're like a young Christian couple with kids, and so I don't know if I would do well on a main surface street, especially with a park right there. I'd be staring at my windows all the time, man. I couldn't.
Yeah, well,
noise and like, what the hell's going on in my front yard, you know?
Yeah, when we first moved in here, because we're on the third floor of a building, there was a beautiful maple tree off of our balcony, and it had a family of raccoons that lived in it. They would come right up to the balcony, right? So I always liked the place because it gave us shelter from the street, and you had this beautiful tree right outside the window all summer long. Well, after about 3 years, the tree got diseased. They cut it down. And then they planted a tree about this big, which is about, we haven't had our tree back. So I've got like 3 other buildings looking right in my front window right now. It drives me up the wall. Yeah. So I keep telling Monica I'm going to go get milk and not come back. Come back in 30 years or something. But
that's the cliche, right? I'm just going to the corner store. I'll be right back, and you never see him again.
I just never told her which corner. Yeah.
Well, since we have Maddy on, we could. It's a good opportunity. We talked about how to get more women interested into sheepdog democracy. You might bounce a question off of her because she fights the good fight with crazy cat ladies on the internet, and
it fights a very good fight.
Yeah, we need her to, not just her, but maybe she has some ideas of what would bring more women. I would caveat with. There's some book that I read, I think it was, oh, come on, what was that book?
The Virgin's Promise?
No, Virgin's Promise is great. It was prior to that, it was this other cat, Not in His Image by John Lamb Lash, it talks about how women, used to be great orators and debaters, and talked about this pivotal time where was the burning of Alexandria, right? The burning of the libraries in Alexandria. There was a woman there.
Hypatia.
She was killed, right? And she was one of the best orators and debaters. And
scientists too.
Yeah, and so there's kind of in that polarization of like the woman is either only a homebody raising babies, or she's out there trying to be a man in a man's world kind of thing and could do everything. It's just missing the mark on when there was really great women that could help maintain social norms and stability and give women other idols, of intelligence, of science and that. So,
well, Tamiris killed great King Cyrus. So I have issue quite often buying this idea that women are low agency. I don't buy it. And my issue with the sheepdog thing is that I didn't realize how much it was a reflection of my own perspective until Todd brought it up. About it's really because I'm a father is why I see it this way. So I'm always worried that there's a big gaping hole here that I'm just not going to be able to probably even relate to. And that's why I'm like, okay, well, we need to get some women involved, because that's probably where the big gaping hole is. We kind of got the long time horizon male over here, but where's the other half to fill in the hole, right?
Yeah, the complementary.
Yeah. So, and I think I've asked you once before, Maddy, what it was that you were finding valuable in sheepdog, because for me, it really does seem to be a reflection of father's perspective on protecting their family. So.
Yeah, I remember that. It was, there's a lot that I've kind of reincorporated into my life, because I need to preface this with, I think I was born, with these sheepdog tendencies that most people have, and then there's the sway from the media and socialization of humanity that kind of takes us on, or took me on, another side route where I got really into the woo, and I loved it. And then Bryan was like knocking me over the head with some logic, and I was like, okay, fine. Like, yeah, a lot of that stuff is crap, and it's a big distraction, and So I think first and foremost is reciprocity. You know, it's so common sense, but it gets whipped out of us by the notions of like that women are better and women need more than men and men are less than, and you know, everything that we would all probably agree that feminism promotes. But feminists wouldn't agree with that at all. You know, feminists want equality, but they're not willing to actually look at the stats and look at the logical explanation behind why men are discounted. So, as far as sheepdog democracy is concerned, I think it is a lot about agency and being a self-starter and being independent, and but still wanting to be part of a family. You know, not to totally disband the family and want to just be an independent woman where I can do it all on my own. You know, because that can be alluring to some, but it's not sustainable for the long run if you want to be a part of a family and make babies and you know, continue on that way. Either way is fine, but I think we all would also agree that we need a good, healthy balance of both in a family unit. So those are some things that I've really have caught my eye, and I talk to other women, but you know, it's I don't know, man. It's there's a lot of women that come down here from Alaska, and those seem to be more of like our type of people because they're hardcore off-gridders. You know, like they can get along without society, no problem, and that's kind of why Bryan and I really like where we live in Hawaii. Is it's not commercialized. We're okay if the lava wants to cut us off. Like we'd be like, great, it's a celebration now. But as far as the women joining Sheepdog Democracy, you know, there's a fine line of like being someone vacuuming or blending.
Not here, but I'll mute my mic just in case.
Oh yeah, it's behind you. Anyway, thanks. For women to be in a family unit, to still have a lot of agency, to want to take care of the children, and to kind of be in charge of that kitchen domain and not see that as like a bad thing, you know, like why do I have to clean everything and make all the food? And you know, because I definitely had that. I was like, I'm not here to be your maid, but it's my role, and to embrace that role and to enjoy it, that I'm the chosen one that gets to feed the family. Like how fun is that? But to also kind of round the corners, you know, like there's been some kind of harsh debates in Sheepdog that didn't end so well, and they could just, you know, just like women are meant to be nurturing, not bitchy, and we can get bitchy, but anyway, just kind of smooth those corners, I think. There was another thing that I don't know if it came up in this group, but Bryan tagged me. It was something that Jordan Peterson had said, and I don't know. I like Jordan Peterson a little bit, but he's also Bryan would say like an intellectual gatekeeper. He doesn't hit all the hard hitting subjects, and he says just it's not worth debating with women. Like they're just not gonna get it, you know, and that sucks because I've had so many long conversations with women friends of mine that I no longer speak with because it's not worth my time. They're not going to get it, and they don't want to think logically. They'd rather just be responding from an emotional place, and it's exhausting and frustrating. So
yeah, I saw that clip, and I think it's kind of, I don't want to call it 100% bullshit because everybody can relate to the stereotype of logic versus emotion, but I think emotional thinking is something that's been forced onto us as a paradigm, probably like what, I don't know, you weren't here a minute ago, Maddy, but Bill was talking about like 100 years ago is when it really started to be changed, you know, that generation was my grandpa's generation or Bill's grandpa's generation was where things really started to, the norms, social norms kind of got taken or changed intentionally. I think they've given us lust, for lack of a better word, or eros, you know, this emotion as a foundational thing as a whole, and so that it pushes everybody to be more emotional. Women are naturally more emotional, so then they show even more illogic when things are heightened. Because I know some very logical women, but they are the minority. If I was going to, judge by all women I might have a debate with.
Right.
And the other thing,
everyone's emotionally got an emotional foundation now. Everyone's butthurt about everything all the time in real life and in social media. And it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't that way,
Yeah, and I think that like the notion that rallying and shaming is only something that women do is not correct. I think that we all cycle through the different survival strategies depending on our strengths and depending on our situation. And that the roles 100 years ago that the private life was run by the wife. The husband didn't get a say into how the house was run or what came into the house or who was going to be running the house. The husband was to deal with the public life. So he dealt with the stuff out of the house.
Yeah.
And those have all been muddled up now. So who controls what? Well, we'll split the work. So we'll both clean. We'll both go to work. That sort of thing. And so then it's a matter of, is that division of labor efficient? And I think, maybe in an urban landscape, it probably is. I don't know if that would be the same case if you're in suburbia or if you're in a smaller town. Because just logistical things like picking up the kids to go to soccer becomes a massive issue when you're both working. And if you're both at high level jobs, it does immediately impact your earning potential. So if you're both doing that, then you're both suffering income, damaging your income potential. So then my wife's right here. She says, so you outsource it. You hire somebody to raise your kids and do your laundry. Well, then what impact does that have on the kids? So then that time horizon, now let's think not just our kids, but our grandkids and that sort of thing. Like our worldview is so myopic right now. I don't think anybody really thinks past the next few years, if not the next few months. So
we're day by day over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I've brought concepts up about this group to my girl, but I've never told her about it or asked her if she wanted to join it. But I'll bring it up to her just to see if she wants to get more involved. She's just because, that's one more woman that may be interested to at least chime in and give us their input. We don't have 100% traditional roles, but we definitely lean towards that. And right now we kind of naturally split our labor. I have kids, but they live with my aunt and uncle in a different state. And so we kind of naturally found responsibilities that seemed like it's what we gravitated to without ever making any plan, and then recognized it and went, cool, let's keep these. And because we never bitch or complain or say, hey, you did this or you didn't, we never are sitting down and making a schedule or a list of who has to do what. So once we identified that we naturally did it, then we went and reinforced that. Like I always do the kitchen, and we both cook, but I always make sure that the kitchen's swept and the dishes are done and all that. And she naturally does all the laundry. And that was the beginning of like, okay, now we can build on this. Like if you're going to do that, then I'll also add this and you also add that. And that way we're, keeping maintenance on it all. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Bryan yesterday that we're getting ready we have a lot of projects and a lot of things we want to do, along with the typical maintenance that goes with having a house. We've got a nice house and a garden and a vehicle and all the little accoutrements. But Kanban or Scrum are two versions of what you call an agile system, originally developed for software. But I know you were in a thread the other day that we were talking about it, Bill.
Yeah, because I used to use, it was before both of those came out, but I would say that pretty much all the software I built was an agile system.
Yeah. And so we bought a huge magnetic dry erase board, and we're going to implement Kanban specifically just for we got a scooter that hasn't been running for a year. We need to fix it. We got more gardening stuff we're going to do. We got whatever, there's this huge list that you make of things you want to do. And there should be a reasonable pipeline of how to, get it on the list, get it started, get it close to done, confirm it's done, and call that fucking project finished and start again, so that you're actually seeing progress and not just playing blind archery, which is the way most people do it.
Yeah, and the agile way of management is it's fantastic if you're high in openness and low in disorderliness, for sure, because you're not planning through every detail. You handle it in your intervals. You do your stand-up meetings twice a week, and then it's like, what's the fire we have to put out right now? Okay, go put it out. But at the same time, keeping a view on the overall picture. So when I was developing software, it was always with very little staff. It was either by myself or maybe one or two other guys. We couldn't take the time to sit there and plan out every part of the function, do a complete functional analysis or anything else. We would say, okay, let's get this mock-up together for the client to get it sold. So you do that for a few projects, and then you realize, well, if we do these mock-ups right, we can reuse that if we sell it. And then that becomes a library. And then so now what you're doing is you're meeting every few weeks. Okay, now take that, modify that, and I'll meet with you on Wednesday.
Right.
And it's so that's this leapfrog forward, and it's highly adaptive to variables. And that's what I liked about it, is that if anything came up or anything knock you off plan, you got it dealt with immediately. You no longer had to worry about things going left or right or something coming up, because you
right, because that's the old cliche, is that you make a perfect plan, and then as soon as you start, Mike Tyson, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and that's what you said is perfect for me and my girlfriend, because it's completely true. We're both super high in openness and just barely hitting the meter at all for orderliness. We're not filthy slobs, but we're not like everything has to be perfect by any means. So, we still keep house and it's nice, but as far as leaning more towards the OCD person, like there's no way they could handle the way that we do it. Like they'd go nuts. That. What do you mean you dried the laundry but you didn't fold it, right?
That's the other shift too, is that if people that want to control everything, the tendency towards control changes from a desire to control the project to simply just having visibility. So the focus changes from trying to do everything to just being aware of everything that's going on. So that's what I found managing project management teams and stuff. I've worked at department head levels, that as long as I had visibility on stuff, I could let everybody work the best way that they felt they wanted to. And you get organic processes that come up. It's like when that particular issue comes up, everybody asks Bob. Well, that's okay. If that's the process, then let them, right? Let them do what they do, as long as I can be sure I know where everything is. So if I can focus on visibility, then you can just let people go out and do the work based on what fits their personality and fits their processes the best. And if you have the visibility and it's not working, you just jump in and say, okay, don't go talk to Bob when you have a problem anymore. You got to, go through this checklist, right? So it's like snapshot managing instead of timeline managing.
Yeah.
I've always preferred.
Nope. Come on.
Yeah, that makes me think of Brian's work too. I went and I watched that podcast with Brian twice, and then went and grabbed both those books, the Save the Cat series, just because I'm an artist. And if I turn this camera around, there's music and art and shit all over this office, because that's how I keep myself sane. But then what was it? What's the other main one that you drew from Brian?
Tribal leadership.
Tribal leadership. That. To me, there's a little bit of a sheen or a kitsch on that I don't like. But overall, I love the idea of being able to identify things according to that simple template of, is this person, because I do it now whether I think about it or not. If someone's coming to me, whether I know them or not, what frame are they coming in? You got a real life sucks attitude right now. Or, hey, there's the I'm great and you're not that I was totally expecting you to come out with. When I tried to say, let's do this, we're going to do this, and you say, me, I like to say, well, you're not there yet. You're not ready to do we yet. Okay. Right. And most people aren't anywhere near life is great attitude of like, it's us versus, the potential future, which is, I feel like, well, that's what's starting to establish in this group, especially with something like this meetup, is that we're getting a little bit closer to the tip of the spear of if we're all great and the system's not, then if we can get over the system being not and just focus on being great, then we're actually improving the fucking world without ever talking about it. We're just doing it, you know. That's why I like this group, you know, because that's what I want to do.
And
yeah, well said.
Yeah, then the outcome is that you end up generating more attractive commons. You give a better alternative to people, and then that's how being great helps everybody else be great.
Right.
Provide a better commons to attract more people in. You know, and that's really what's happened in the West in the last 200 years is we've produced better commons. Everybody else wanted a part of that, wanted the same thing. So look at that. Who's that?
Tucker.
Tucker?
Yes.
Yeah, we got a little fat old pug.
A snorter.
He can just barely jump up on the couch anymore. He's a little fat old pug, and if I pet him or say something nice to him, he just goes over to the treats and stands there like, all right, I did something good. You know, you treated me nice, so that means I get a treat. So kick it down.
Hey, Bill, is she in the group?
No, she doesn't really pay attention to me much. Come on up. Come on up. Coco, up. Come, say hi. What's this? Say hi. Oh, she won't look at the camera. She wants to lick my hand. No, we talk about it, and she lets me do my own thing. She's very patient with me. I wouldn't say she disagrees with anything I present. For the most part, yeah, it's kind of my world. I'd say that anything that we're doing in our lives aligns with it, though. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
When are you going to add your daughter to the group?
When she's old enough that I'm comfortable to have her face online. I'm still leery about having pictures of her and having her online. Sure. So that's the only reason why. She wanted to be a part of the talk today, and I was like, well, let's wait until you can, handle that knife in your pocket.
Yeah. No, that's smart.
But yeah, Sean, I would say add your girlfriend.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll ask her first.
Yeah. I mean, Bryan has
a nurse,
added.
So you gotta play it a certain way. If I was raised by nurses and come from a whole family of nurses, and I've been a professional caregiver in the past for years, like for taking care of people, and so I'll ask her. There's times when I would just take initiative and dump somebody into something, but not her.
Here's my better half.
Oh, I see why people are wary of your dog, because it's a big, beautiful Rottie, and they don't know what to think of that. They don't know they're babies.
That's my Rotterman. She's my good girl. We have a real love.
The group, and they've left. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, and that's fine too. Okay.
And that's the other thing is, a lot of women don't care to talk about politics or to understand the world stage and the bigger picture of what's going on and what has been going on, And that was another challenge of a lot of the women in my life. They're like, well, let's just send them all love and light.
And I think that's the case with most people. Is like we're pretty far down a particular rabbit hole. Like I think maybe you don't recognize that there's a pretty large foundation of just understanding some basic things about the world before you can even start evaluating stuff like this. How many people challenge the legitimacy of open source or what is it, openmedia.org or Move On or something, and like actually understand how these things operate in our society? Well, each of us here have probably spent a couple of years just trying to understand that.
Right.
If you don't understand that, you don't understand that there is a problem to solve. So
yeah, the constant laugh of watching someone make a claim and then someone else post a Snopes article, and I'm just like, I gotta go do something else. I gotta get the blow up on these people.
Because that was another comment. I think it was, I don't know, somewhere on the internet of like, is it worth it to argue with anybody? And somebody's smart response was, well, are they going to uphold the truth? And for the most part, the sad thing is most people don't think that the truth can ever even be found. Yeah. That it's just nebulous and unknown, and why even bother? Like, we'll never know anyway. That's kind of where my sister stands. And My mom was totally a pink hat wearer in the walkabouts, and I'm just like, I don't know where my women are, you know. Very few and far between.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of which, I'm going to have to go take care of my women soon. Do you guys want to continue? I will see if I can leave the meeting without killing the whole thing.
I can scoot.
Yeah, I think we're good to bail unless you guys have something else to say. Because I mean, like I said, I probably need to give myself a shower, get ready for dinner here. It's an early dinner, but
yeah,
I think once a week or something like that. Anything. It doesn't have to be a tight schedule, but I'm happy to do something like this again.
Yeah, and I think anybody
find the goal, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll send out another feeler somewhere towards the end of the week. See if we can set it up again for next week.
How many people can come in on these?
I think there's up to like 100 on Zoom. The only issue is that I haven't paid for the account, so it's a 40-minute cutoff.
Right.
So I'll look at that at some point.
Okay.
I can't imagine 100 people. I would.
No. Yeah.
That's like network. That must be like multi-level marketing driven idea, right? Remember those old calls? You know?
Yeah. Well, back in my corporate life, you would have webinars like that where you would have, an entire company of a few thousand people.
Yeah.
And everybody into a webinar.
You're going to have to mute your mic.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And raise your hand. All right, you guys. Man. Nice to see your face.
Nice to see you guys' faces. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
You bet. Right.
We'll see you.
We'll see you next time. We'll see you in the Facebook group.
Okay. Yeah.